Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously, zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar. Zero patience for slow walkers. Those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night. Have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
Welcome back to the Epic Universal Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and this is the podcast where we cover the latest Universal news, rumors, and history. And as always, I'm joined by Eric Hersey. And I'm going to apologize in advance here, folks, because I know we basically beat Jaws into the ground, over the last couple of episodes. But only this week I learned about this amazing new. Well, it's not a new book, actually, to be honest. Matt Taylor, his family was lived for 15 generations on Martha's Vineyard. And it turns out that Jaws is his favorite film. And so he wrote this book, Jaws, Memories of Martha's Vineyard, back in 2011. But in honor of, the 50th anniversary of the film, they've just done an updated version of, in fact, it says right here on the cover, revised and updated, a version of the book. And oh my God, Eric, it's spectacular. But it only just came out on September 1st, 2025 from, hang on, I want to make sure. Titan Books.
Oh, Titan Books. There you go.
No,
learning even more. So you're saying that we're going to have more Jaws shows in the future? Is that what you're saying, Jim?
Well, I wish we had this because there's some spectacular visual aids in here. I mean, just the stories about, for example, Bob Maddy, the guy who built, the old Disney effects guy. He was talking about, he was like, okay, so, we were looking at, what's the biggest, what's the largest great white that ever got caught? And it's like, okay, there's one on record that's 13 and a half feet long. So it's okay. So we're going to double the size of the shark, it's 27 feet long. If it's got to be a monster, it's got to be a monster. And and it's the first place I've ever heard of, oh my God, we actually know how big, the shark is, but it's full of great stories like that. And again, I apologize. Those of you folks who are like, look, it's past Labor Day. Stop talking about the shark.
No, this is the Epic Jaws podcast. We're going to see how many episodes we can go before I watch. But no, Jim, also fun thing is if you're over in the LA, California area, the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures is actually doing a Jaws exhibition. And friend of the show sent this over. And I probably become the most notorious person that gets Jaws news that hasn't seen Jaws, because at this point in time, I get people out. Have you watched it yet? And I said, slow little bites. I'm watching clips and so forth. But yeah, that looks, and I was looking at the pictures. So if you're a Jaws fan, there's still lots out there, and it is still in the theaters, I believe.
I believe so. And in fact, what kind of kills me when you bring up the Academy Museum, the very next time I was going to be out in LA, that Brian Gahn had made me promise that I was going to go with him, because isn't one of the sharks, the actual sharks used in the making of the original Jaws, on display there?
Well, Jim, I had to squint my eyes when I was going through the pictures because I'm like, it's just too real to me still. But no, they look to be all types of great exhibit items. And I said, take pictures and send them to me, although it'll traumatize me, but I'll be good. No. I'm slowly. I think I'm ready, Jim. I'm ready. But I think we need a couple more Jaws podcasts in the can before I'm ready to go. So write in, let us know.
Okay. Well, all right. We have other things to talk about here as opposed to great whites. But before we do that, we, of course, have to acknowledge our sponsor, which is unlockedmagic.com. And I've been teasing Eddie G this week because he sent me a note because he couldn't find the sponsor. And evidently I had left the ED off of Unlocked Magic. So it's unlocked with an ED, folks. But anyway, if you are planning a trip to Walt Disney World or Universal, you really need to check out Unlocked Magic. They offer real discounts, up to 12% off of theme park tickets. And again, it's Halloween. Well, again, it's September. It's not Halloween for weeks yet. But if you're in the theme park world, oh my God, we're right in the middle of Halloween.
We're about a month into Halloween in the theme park world,
This
Jim.
is true. This is true. And Unlock Magic can get discounts on Mickey's Not So Scary tickets. Likewise, Halloween Horror Night tickets, though they're probably going fast, folks, so don't delay. And looking ahead to, of course, November, which is when we do Christmas. Right. Mickey's Very Merry, Jollywood Nights. So do yourself a favor. Go check out unlockmagic.com and save today. So, all right, now to get to the news, and we have to start this week's show on kind of a sad note, don't we?
Yeah, Jim, you brought this up, and I didn't know the gentleman's name, but I did know that the individual that was kind of in charge for making a lot of the visual aesthetics of the Harry Potter films was also very associated with the theme park. So today I learned that this gentleman's name was Stuart Craig, and I believe you know far more about this gentleman because you've been covering this work since Harry Potter came out, right?
Well, and more to the point, Stuart Craig has been on my radar for years. Well, first of all, 3-time Academy Award winner for production design. He first won for Gandhi in 1982, then for Dangerous Liaisons in 1988, and then finally, 1996, he took home the Oscar for The English Patient. But it was only after that he got tapped for effectively the assignment of his career, the Harry Potter films. And production of those began September of 2000. And he then spent, more than the next decade creating the world of Harry Potter. The first film, Sorcerer's Stone, as we call it here in the States, that didn't hit theaters till November of 2001. And the last film, the 8th film of the series, that came out in, July of 2011. And then after that, he continued on and did the 3 Fantastic Beasts films we have today. But why we talk about him on this podcast is Stuart was the guy who helped bring the Harry Potter films into the theme park world. And because, again, the Universal people were so kind to me when the first couple of Wizarding Worlds got up out of the ground, I got to meet with Stuart a bunch of times. And there was genuinely no sweeter guy on the planet. He was very humble, but at the same time, genuinely enjoyed this assignment because, he once explained to me, it's like, well, look, you have to understand when we make a movie, it's just what the camera is pointed at.
Right.
And more often than not, it's only a partial set that then the visual effects people extend or, we'll have a matte or we'll have a model and, but this to suddenly have to do the world of the film, but with the notion of people are going to turn around. They need to see what's behind them. They need to see what's above them. They need to see what's down on the ground. And said, this has just been thrilling to have to do this. And, at the same time, I think what is especially shocking about this is that we've only just learned that for the last 14 years, he was battling Parkinson's. So, to think that, when he was working on, The Deathly Hallows Part 2, the notion that, as he's working on the biggest film of the series, he gets his diagnosis. I mean, God, just kills me.
Yeah, but it sounds like he was 83, so and it sounded like he passed away peacefully. So thoughts and and everything out there to his family. But it sounds like he's got a great lasting legacy, and I think we all can tip a butterbeer to him today because truthfully, when we walk through those parks and we feel immersed, and really those parks changed how themed entertainment looks at immersion. Yeah. So let's all tip it to good old Stuart Craig and honor what he has done for us.
I would tell people to pour out a butterbeer, but when I think about what a butterbeer costs this day, it's like, well, maybe just
not in this economy,
Jim. This economy. No. All right. Anyway, now speaking of Harry Potter, you actually have some news in regard to the UK park. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that happened maybe last night or the night before on the recording date here. Is that the Sun is basically, no, we talked about this before. We know the UK park is coming about, and they had concept art, but nobody really thought there would be any Harry Potter there because there's a Harry Potter land. And what is it? Watford?
Well, yeah,
Like
it's
close by, right?
it's the I want to say at Elstree Studios where they actually
Right.
shot the 8 Harry Potter movies and the 3 Fantastic Beasts films. So I mean, you get to visit the facility where these production facility where these were actually made.
Yeah, so it turns out that there has been talks, and we thought originally, well, they won't put Harry Potter in this park; they'll just leave it alone and do different IPs. But it sounds like there has been negotiations between Warner Brothers and J.K. Rowling with Universal and trying to figure out how that would work. And so that was kind of posted by the Sun on their paper and their line, and we do have some. Semi-quote, you tell me, Jim, are these quotes anything definitive? But it's an insider said it's not clear exactly what agreement has been reached, but Universal now have their creative teams drawing up plans for the Harry Potter attraction in earnest. So, and it's been a tense time during discussions between the rival studios, but they feel like it's been worth it, particularly with the new Harry Potter TV series. And so what does Universal say? Still early to know the process. It's still too early. So, I think we're all getting excited. Most people are getting excited that Harry Potter will be over in the UK park, but does it sound like we're going to get it? Do you think these words, you've seen a lot of these presses before.
Well, I mean, look, we were just talking about this last week with the expansion plans that have been released for Universal Studios Hollywood. And by the way, in between this show and last show, reached out to folks in the know, and Eric found the real deal. In fact, the giveaway there, folks, that this is the real expansion plan going forward for Universal Studios Hollywood is if you look at the front part of the park. And first of all, there's kind of a weird oval-shaped thing in the middle. That's the new security complex that's under construction right now. So it's like, okay, this plan is already underway. But the fascinating part is the reason they're moving their entrance security position is that there's a premium parking lot that's just next to the entrance of the park. And if you look at where the premium parking used to be, that's where the long rumored but definitely happening new Universal Hollywood Hotel is being built, and you can actually see where that hotel is now going to be built. So it's like, holy cow, this is legitimately the plan. And also as part of the going forward. In fact, this is the weird part. Eric, I think you were the one who were mentioning this, that of everything we were talking about on last week's show, the thing that people grabbed onto is Diagon Alley's coming to Hollywood. Well, I mean, again, I'm surprised that's news because that's been talked about for almost a decade now. That in fact, it's always been the question of, okay, if we're bringing Diagon Alley to Hollywood, well, we got to do the Hogwarts Express. People absolutely loved that. And it was just trying to figure out where to do it, how to do it. And, what's been kind of interesting in the past year or so, what with them closing down, for example, the grand finale, the Fast and Furious supercharged thing of the tram tour. There was a lot of people who looking at, the current location of Hogwarts at Hollywood and the proximity to that part of the tram tour. And it's like, interesting. So could they run the Hogwarts Express so it takes people down the hill to, but that's the thinking. But for me, what's especially fascinating about this plan is all of the potential expansion pads they've singled out in the park. And in fact, we were talking on the last show about Waterworld.
Yeah.
That big chunk of property right in the middle of the park. So
that was the talk. So I think we'll keep an eye and see how that goes. But that was the big talk is we're getting rid of Waterworld for what? And but we'll keep that going. But I think that very interesting. Lots of Harry Potter still involved, so we'll see if it happens in the UK park. But did you see that we actually have a UK park name now?
Yeah,
did you see that it was filed for a trademark?
Now, again, this is a somewhat generic name, Universal United Kingdom Resort.
Right. So what were we calling it? We were calling it Great Britain, Universal Great Britain, or so forth. So I don't know. Universal UK is easy enough for me, but I wasn't.
There we go.
Nothing to protect. But they're not really creative with all of them. What is it? Universal like Beijing? No. It's not like any of them.
No.
Creative,
I mean, it's Universal Studios Florida. It's somewhere in that state. Okay. Well. All right.
But hey, as we were talking about UK, something did spring to my brain here that everybody should know. If you haven't yet, we have a great new podcast on the network with one of our UK friends who's pretty excited about this park.
This is true. And we are talking about Chris Cox, magician and mind reader, who Len and I are now doing the case for with Chris Cox with. And it's a different show for us. I mean, the idea is that on each episode, Len and Chris debate certain aspects of the Disney theme parks, whether it's rope dropping or concierge level rooms or the like. Weird little bend on this is this is a faux police procedural. So I'm the judge, right. And I have to admit, Eric, I'm really getting into the wardrobe, getting myself a Hawaiian print robe, very soon.
Oh, there you go. I was going to say, well, it's similar to the Jedi stuff that you've worn once.
There we go.
On the starship.
In fact, I've got that in the closet next to, we never actually ran this show. We did a live show in Orlando, I want to say 3 and 4 years ago, where we talked about Disney's Babes in Toyland and how that came into the parks. But Len had made such a big deal the previous fan event in the park. For example, he dressed in a racing outfit when he challenged the people at the event to race him at the Autopia in the Magic Kingdom. So
that's right.
I felt I needed to step up my game. So I found do you remember the Christmas Story where the little boy gets the rabbit outfit?
Yes.
I found a full-sized adult version of that and actually wore that at the event as I read my piece. And, I think basically what happened is it was so terrible. The visual, it broke many cameras. So, that I've never seen an image of it out there, but that thing's in the closet next to my Jedi robes, and it just, so. Anyway.
Well, Jim, you know what? If we get enough people to go over there, subscribe and give us a good sample, the Case 4 with Chris Cox, go subscribe now on Spotify, Apple, all those. But I felt it was a good time to plug one of our, and Chris is a delight. Mm-hmm. I very much enjoy hearing his takes on everything, and you guys did a very good job. So the first episode's out there. Mm-hmm. Listen to it, and I can't wait to submit frozen butterbeer, hot butterbeer, or just plain butterbeer for the debate.
That's we're about to record show 4 and 5. So I'm going to put that on the list. That's a great suggestion.
There you go.
Okay.
And I think that show will win some awards, just like our friends at Epic Universe. Did you see this?
Yeah, the Golden Ticket Awards, which, by the way, that's an annual set of honors presented by Amusement Today. That's a trade publication that covers the themed entertainment space, theme parks and attractions industry. I mean, it's the golden tickets are sometimes described as the Oscars of the theme park world. But it's folks in the industry recognizing what's going on in the industry. So you want to talk about, what took home some golden tickets this year?
Yeah, I don't think there's any surprise there that the Epic, brand new theme park, top-notch rides and technology. So Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment, won the best dark ride. Mm-hmm. So that beat out Star Wars Rise of Resistance. So that's tough competition there. Mm-hmm. And then our friends Harry Potter and the Battle of the Ministry earned best new attraction installation and also placed second for best dark ride and best new innovation award. Stardust Racer was named the best new roller coaster, which is pretty impressive. So, I mean, that's and then Dark Universe won the best new theme concept for its Gothic Village, which I think was kind of crazy, just because there was a lot. I mean, theme concept that's to beat out Isle of Burke even. That's a tough one. And Universal Volcano Bay won the first time for best water park. It beat out a very low. I think the other one was 26 years in a row or something ridiculous. I remember reading it. I can't remember the name of it.
Okay.
But so Universal took home some great awards here, which is always nice. I'm sure those that work on that's a nice little honor for them.
Okay, well, congrats, and let's see, beyond that, so much of this is focused on Epic Universe, and we talked just recently about that TV special that ran on NBC, but we've got a far deeper dive on this theme park coming. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is an update. We've talked about this before, and remember the date got pushed. And I can't remember. It was a couple months ago. It was supposed to come out on Peacock. Well, Epic the Ride, the trailer just dropped, and it's going to be out on Monday, the 29th of September. So if you love the behind-the-scenes stuff, this is your cup of tea. So I would say set your alarm, I guess, or just, I'm not quite sure if you set your DVR, if it's on Peacock or not, but.
Okay. All right. I'm very much looking forward to watching this. Now, on the other hand, given my lack of skills with technology, I apologize. You're going to have to walk me through this next. And in fact, this was brought to our attentions by a friend of the show, BioReconstruct. Is that correct?
Right, and I made him walk me through it.
Oh, well, there we go.
What am I seeing here?
Okay.
Well, because it was a it's a picture that says the Backlot Club, Universal Backlot Club.
Okay.
And it was like it looks like a box on just on a wheel cart. And there's a giant QR code. So it looks to be, and I went there today and actually signed up for it.
Okay.
So for those that are familiar with the Disney Play app, which is just an app that you kind of do trivia and you can play in the park, it looks like Universal has something very similar in that they rolled out the Universal Backlot Club, which is a membership-based interactive game for guests. So you can sign up for this at backlot.club. And it gives you like a digital member card. But Jim, really, I went on there today, and for the most part, it is a lot of trivia.
Okay.
So so you'd be a great probably partner in this aspect because it is lots of Universal monsters, Universal this, Universal that. So, and I think it's just the first part of like while you're in the park and you're in lines, here's something to do. Because I know you guys have talked about this a lot over on Disney Unpacked, which the fact is when you're in queues now, people are on their phones.
Oh yeah.
And I guess if you can keep them on your phones in your property, with your stuff, that's a better experience or a little more immersion for you. So just to keep an eye, I think they just started putting this out. There's one podium right now that was just launched at Universal Studios, Florida, and it was during the Halloween Horror Nights. But keep an eye out for that. But I will, when we go down the park, I will give it a try and see. But you can't sign up for it on the computer right now. So if you want to go and sign up, they give you immediately answer a couple of questions and you become like a level 1, and then you get like a medallion or something. So
we get done here tonight. That's what I'm going to do. And speaking of getting done, this completes the news portion of the show. And when we get back from this break, Eric and I are going to continue the story of Dueling Dragons, the roller coaster that supposedly Universal got the idea from Disney. But first, this.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
And we're back. Okay, Eric, picking up where we left off with last week's show, on the heels of the successful opening of Back to the Future, The Ride, May of 1991 at Universal Studios, Florida, the company finally got serious about turning its Orlando operation, which is, again, single theme park at that time, with the notion of, okay, we're going to make this a multi-day destination resort. But as we mentioned on last week's show, the thinking at Universal at the time is like, look, if we're serious about going head-to-head with Disney down in Central Florida, we have to have an equivalent of the Magic Kingdom, a theme park that's loaded with beloved cartoon characters. And as we discussed on last week's show with Steven Spielberg's help, Universal Creative thought they had a solution. The Universal Studios theme park that was supposed to be built entirely around Warner Brothers IP. To be specific, the Looney Tune characters, Batman and Superman, and their associated villains. And not to mention the characters from the just launched Tiny Toons Adventure TV show. But this dream deal, which would have given Universal the theme park rights to all of that IP forever. One time, single upfront payment of $40 million. That deal falls apart because these two entertainment giants evidently, reportedly, couldn't agree on what an appropriate revenue split would be when it came to souvenir merchandise sold at Universal Studios. Okay, so where we pick up the story today, it's now 1992, and Warner Brothers has, in essence, taken its ball and gone home. And mind you, Universal still wants to build a Magic Kingdom equivalent down there in Florida as part of its multi-day destination resort plan. But it's now got to do it the hard way, Eric. One IP at a time. But it's not all bad news. As we mentioned on an earlier Epic Universal podcast, by this point in the 1990s, Universal is officially in bed with Michael Crichton. In fact, Steven Spielberg had made senior management at Universal aware, this would have been 88, 89, that, hey, Michael's got a killer idea for his next book. It's about a theme park full of clone dinosaurs where something goes horribly wrong. And Universal was smart enough, after Spielberg prodded them, to acquire not only the movie rights, but the theme park rights to Crichton's next opus, which was, of course, Jurassic Park. Now, weird little bend on this story. There's a scene in the book version of Jurassic Park where right after the big T-Rex attack, the first one in the film, Tim, Lexi, and Dr. Grant find themselves in another dinosaur enclosure, and they're hiding in the tall grass, and this creature starts to come at them, and they freak out. Only when the grass parts, it's a baby Triceratops. And after Tim and Lexi and Dr. Grant feed it and pet it, it then wanders back to its much bigger mom, which is in the same paddock. Well, anyway, Spielberg loves this moment in Crichton's book, so much so that when he hires David Cope to write the screenplay for the original Jurassic Park movie, Steven tells David, we need to expand on this idea. Could we maybe have the baby's Triceratops be a bigger part of this movie? Like, say, have Tim and Lexi, ride on its back while Dr. Grant is trying to find a way out of the Triceratops enclosure. And here's the thing, Eric, that vignette, as Spielberg suggested it stays in the original Jurassic Park movie for a very long time. I mean, David writes it into the film script, and the visual development team does all sorts of storyboards, and Stan Winston and his team who did the animatronic dinosaurs, the original Jurassic Park, they get so far along in the design process that they build a full-size maquette. And in fact, folks, if you type in Stan Winston baby Triceratops Jurassic Park, you'll get to see an image of this thing. Cute as hell.
Huh.
But anyway, now we're so far along in the process, Eric, we are 3 months out from when filming begins in Kauai on the original Jurassic Park. So it's August of 92. And only then does the scene get cut out of the movie, and largely for budgetary reasons. So to hear Stan Winston talk, it's like, oh my God, we dodged a bullet, because it's like he at that point had not figured out a workable solution for what Spielberg was asking for here. The scene now was basically Tim on the back of, again, a full-size baby Triceratops. Lexi is in front of it, basically dangling food, urging the thing along while Dr. Grant is looking for a way out of the enclosure. And Stan's like, to Spielberg, you gotta help me. You gotta give me something here. It's like, because originally it's just walking through grass, and it's like, give me ferns, give me something to hide the cables. And but again, it's got to be a full size animatronic that's can carry the weight of a real live small boy. And again, Stan hasn't figured this out yet. They're 3 months out for shooting, so when it cuts to the movie, it's like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there are people at Amblin, that's Spielberg's production company, who are genuinely bummed when the scene gets cut out of the movie, because they've seen the storyboards. They think it's charming as hell. Would have been a sweet little moment in a movie full of big scares, to let the audience catch its breath. More to the point, the people who worked in Amblin's merchandising department took one look at the baby Triceratops and was like, oh man, do you know how much plush we would have sold in that thing? Every kid in North America would want to go to bed with the baby Triceratops. But
right.
But here's the thing, Eric. Jump ahead now to Jurassic World, the fourth film in the franchise. And by the way, that gets released to theaters June of 2015. And how many of you remember in this Colin Trevorrow movie, the Gentle Giants petting zoo scene, where literally you have a bunch of little kids all at once, all riding baby Triceratops. By the way, the scene actually shot at the Honolulu Zoo, in fact, in their elephant enclosure. And sadly, no animatronics were used. All the dinosaurs you see kids riding on were done with CG, and they were all added later in post.
But Jim, real quick, I want to tell you, because you're talking about this baby Triceratops. I'm like, man, I remember this. So obviously, in '93 when it came out, I was big into action figures. I actually owned a lot of the Jurassic Park action figures, and I said, man, I swear they came with a baby Triceratops. I just Googled it, and Sergeant T-Rex Turner indeed came with a baby Triceratops. So maybe it was already far along enough that the actual toys were made.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's cool. Okay. Now, again, back to the riding the baby Triceratops scene. Again, proposed the original Jurassic Park movie, eventually makes it into a movie, one of the films further on in the franchise. On an earlier edition of the Epic Universal podcast, we talked about that chunk of the original Jurassic Park book where, again, Dr. Grant and Tim and Lexi, they get out of the Triceratops enclosure, they find a raft, and they figure, okay, we're going to get on this route, this river, which will take us back to the visitor center, and we'll be safe. And they float by this T-Rex, who they think is sleeping, but then wakes up, sees them, and then wades into the river, and they're like, well, we're okay, because T-Rexes can't swim. And it's, oh no, they swim very well. And so, there was this whole scene, in the book about, suddenly the T-Rex has effectively become a prehistoric great white and is swimming after them. Anyway, again, David Cope, who we mentioned, wrote the original screenplay for Jurassic Park as well as its sequel. Well, some 30 years later, Eric, Spielberg reaches out and says, hey, we're literally doing, we're rebooting Jurassic World. In fact, we want to call this thing Rebirth. That's how much of a reboot it is. And would you be willing to come back and write the movie? And what David remembered was that for the longest time, this scene of the T-Rex going after Tim and Lexi and Dr. Grant in the raft was in the movie. You'll love this, Eric. What ultimately sank the scene in the movie is in the early 90s, water, CG water particularly, was impossible.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, if you remember, it was such a big deal in 1989 when The Abyss came out, and they had the James Cameron film where they had the column of water going through the undersea station, and everybody was like, "Wow, it actually looks like water," as opposed to bad CG. And it was, but that was the thing. For David, he wrote the scene and they boarded it, and it was one of his favorite parts of the book. And it's like, just doing the dinosaurs in CG was tough, but you're asking us to do water too. It's like, no, we can't do it. This gets cut. So Cope puts that scene in his back pocket and hoping he gets hope at some point in the future, he'll get to circle back on this. So again, Spielberg reaches out and says, hey, would you like to come back and write, another Jurassic Park movie? Because again, we're rebooting Jurassic World. And he says, yes, but only if we get to put the scene from the original Jurassic Park movie in, from the book, that the thing we wanted to do, but we couldn't do. And there's this great interview in the Hollywood Reporter, Eric, where, Cope talks about this. He says, you know how you have to sneeze and you can't? So I've had that feeling for 32 years, when it comes to the raft scene from the original Jurassic Park book.
So painful just to think of that, Jim.
32 years. Okay. He said, I had that scene in the very first draft of the original Jurassic Park movie, but it got cut to budgetary reasons, because also doing CG water back then was really hard. So now, 3 decades later, to finally find a way to put that exact scene from the first Jurassic Park movie into a Jurassic World movie, enormously satisfying. And he says, go back now and read that scene as Michael Crichton wrote it in the original Jurassic Park book, and then look at what we did with Jurassic World Rebirth. And you're going to see that in my script, I just basically transcribed what Michael Crichton wrote, because what's in the book is just this perfect scene. And Eric, I love stories like this, but at the same time, I understand what other people don't like. Commercials. Sorry about that, folks. But we have to do one right now. But hang in there. We will get to the origin story of Islands Adventure and how we get to Living Dragons in a moment. But first, this.
This episode is brought to you by FXX and Hulu. Futurama returns on September 15th, blending heartfelt moments with razor-sharp humor while accidentally saving the day. The Planet Express crew is back, defying gravity and common sense. From the creator of The Simpsons comes 10 new episodes where the romance is hotter, the threats are bigger, and the action hits harder. Don't miss the all-new season of Futurama returning September 15th at 8 p.m. Watch it on FXX or stream it on Hulu.
Welcome to Only Murders in the Building,
the official podcast.
Join me, Michael Cyril Creighton, as we go behind the scenes with some of the amazing actors, writers, and crew from Season 5.
The audience should never stop suspecting anything.
How can you not be funny crawling around on a coffin? No, that's true.
Catch Only Murders in the Building official podcast, now streaming wherever you get your podcasts. And watch Only Murders in the Building, streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
If you thought goldenly breaded McDonald's chicken couldn't get more golden, think Golder. Because new sweet and smoky special edition gold sauce is here. Made for your chicken favorites. At participating McDonald's for a limited time.
And we're back. Okay, I know we spent a good chunk of today's show discussing the T-Rex swims in the water scene from the original Jurassic Park book, which was supposed to be a part of the original Jurassic Park movie. And I bring that up because I'm pretty sure back when we were discussing Islands Adventures, Triceratops and Counter Attraction on this same podcast a few months back, Eric, we discussed how Jurassic Park the movie and Jurassic Park, the theme park ride, were in development at the exact same time. In fact, as the story goes, Gary Goddard's company, which was handling the development of the Jurassic Park ride for Universal's theme park division back in the early 1990s, literally reached out to Spielberg's people, and it's like, we're on the same page, right? You have the T-Rex swimming in the after the raft scene, right? Because we're thinking we want to do that for the theme park ride. Take the river that runs through Jurassic Park and then just turn that into Universal's version of Splash Mountain. And I don't know if we've talked about that yet, Eric. How, again, our original Disneyland Splash Mountain opens July of '89, immediate hit. So much so that the Disney orders 2 more Splash Mountains, one for the Magic Kingdom in Florida, and then for Tokyo Disneyland. And this is the weirdest part of the story, Eric. Those 2 flume rides being built on opposite sides of the planet actually open within a day of one another. Japanese.
Was that accidental? Jeez.
It's one of these things I've always asked, and they're like, to be honest, the fact that we got either of these 2 miserable bastards up out of the ground, it's amazing. But the Japanese version opens October 1st, 1992. Florida version opens the following day.
That's so crazy.
October 2nd, 92. But anyway, Universal sees what Splash Mountain does to Disney's theme park attendance levels. Florida and California says, okay, we want one of those too. So Jurassic Park, the ride, opens on the lower lot at Universal Studios Hollywood, July of '96, and is such a big hit that when plans are revealed the following year, 1997, for Universal's Islands Adventure, and by the way, just weeks before the first Jurassic Park sequel, Lost World, arrives in theaters May 19th, 97. Isle Nublar. I can never say that name. Jurassic Park Land is now the star attraction of this theme park, with the Jurassic Park Discovery Center basically in the very same position that Cinderella Castle is at the Magic Kingdom. Now, another weird little bend on this story, because Isla Nublar, or however you pronounce it, is supposed to be this green, lush, overgrown island off the coast of Costa Rica. That's a challenge to deliver on when you're the Universal Horticultural Department. And to replicate this look, and I'm sure you saw when BioReconstruct shared this with us over Twitter a couple of days ago, but did you see that T-shirt that they gave out?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Okay, so when you work on, you're part of the construction team of, working on a theme park, and signature attractions or key buildings are done. There's always a little ceremony or a giveaway, to thank the crew for doing this. And what BioReconstruct came across was a T-shirt that was given out to the team that had completed construction of Pterodon Flyers, which was the very first attraction to be completed at Islands Adventure. But here's the thing, folks. It was completed in March of 1998, whereas the park itself did not open till late May of '99. And there was method to Universal's madness. They had to get all of the steel in the ground for this ride that I want to point out that Eric and Miles have been on and I have not. But they had to have it in place because the horticultural team then wanted a full year to get in there and plant and grow, again, this lush, overgrown, island off the coast of Costa Rica. Look. So thanks again to BioReconstruct for sharing that image, because it was amazing. It was. So anyway, with Jurassic Park now intended as the big draw at Islands Adventure, and again, want to stress it, not an IP that the studio had to go out and acquire the theme park rights to, because again, Universal had been smart enough to get the theme park rights when it got the movie rights to Jurassic Park. There was still a matter of what else to put in this theme park, which again is supposed to be Universal's answer to the Magic Kingdom, Disney's main park down in Florida. So again, this part of the story, Eric, I know you're going to enjoy, because Universal took great pleasure in being able to literally swipe the theme park rights to one set of cartoon characters right out from under the Walt Disney Company. And this was Jay Ward's Goofy gang. We're talking Rocky and Bullwinkle, not to mention Dudley Do-Right.
Right. And wasn't there something crazy about how like Disney had it for something, like almost VHS tapes? Right?
It did. That's it exactly. In 1988, Walt Disney Home Entertainment negotiated a deal with Jay Ward, the gentleman who created these cartoon characters. They acquired the rights to 150 hours of old Rocky and Bullwinkle shows, and the first set of these they put out in the market in 1989, and they sold really, really well. Which, by the way, did not go unnoticed by the folks who ran the Disney theme parks. They saw that Disney fans had a clear fondness for Rocky and Bullwinkle, and given that MGM had just opened in May of that same year, 1989, and again, the Imagineers are looking for ways to make Disney's movie-themed theme park different than the Magic Kingdom and Epcot. And well, the thinking was, well, all right, what if we put Rocky and Bullwinkle shows, rides, attraction based on those characters in Disney MGM? Now, important to point out here, as MGM is literally coming up out of the ground, the Imagineers had absolutely no idea that Walt Disney Pictures, in kind of rapid succession, would have three family-friendly hits that went out into theaters. We're talking Who Framed Roger Rabbit, June of 88, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, June of 89, and then finally The Little Mermaid, November of 89, that they would eventually be able to base theme park attractions on. All they knew as MGM was opening was, it is probably going to be a mistake if we keep using the same Disney theme park characters in the Magic Kingdom and Epcot and MGM. We need to make MGM special somehow. So, again, we've already talked on the show about August of 89, how Disney announced that it was going to acquire, the Muppets. And this is the sad part is that, we lost Jay Ward in October of 89. And, so they were like, all right, maybe we should talk with the family after we wait a discrete period for them to mourn. Maybe we should look at acquiring the theme park rights to the Rocky and Bullwinkle characters. Just think about that, Eric. Once upon a time, there was a plan to make Disney MGM the place where you could hang out with Kermit the Frog and Bullwinkle J. Moose. But this is where the tale gets twisted. Someone at Universal learns that Disney doesn't yet have the theme park rights to Jay Ward's cartoon characters, and they begin the secret backdoor negotiation with the Ward family, which is how Disney winds up being flat out blindsided in June of 1991 that not only has Universal acquired the theme park rights to these cartoon characters, but they also have the merchandising rights. And what especially stung about this, Eric, is again, June of 91, the word comes out about this. 6 months earlier, the Henson family had literally walked away from Disney's efforts to acquire the Muppets. And this, to hear the family talk, this was largely because Disney's lawyers had been so aggressive when it came to Jim's widow, Jane, and his five kids, Brian, John, Lisa, Cheryl, and Heather. And so inside of 6 months, Disney's lawyers are outed as being overly aggressive and now inept, So, though, what's kind of interesting about this is the Bullwinkle characters originally not going into Islands of Adventure, but rather Universal Studios Hollywood and Universal Studios Florida, because at that point, the only cartoon characters that these theme parks had were, they had Woody Woodpecker, Woody's girlfriend, Winnie, Andy Panda, and Chilly Willy, not to mention Feifel and, the other mice characters from American Tail from 86, and then its sequel from 91, Feifel Goes West, which is why August of 1992, The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle show debuts at both Universal Studios Florida and Universal Studios Hollywood, which, by the way, folks, if you want to watch this, head on over to YouTube. Someone over there has very kindly posted this show in its entirety, which, Eric, you'll love. It is so written to reflect the theme park space of the 1990s. There's actually a moment in the show where Bullwinkle is being shown his brand new snazzy dressing room on the Universal lot, and he turns to the audience and says, "Eat your heart out, Miss Piggy." So,
yeah, that's very 90s, and that's they still keep that snark. I mean, I was at the Monster Horror Show, and they still give a little shout outs to some of the Disney stuff. I kind of like that about
absolutely.
Universal.
In fact, they what kind of killed me about when the original version of Jaws the Ride, never worked the way it was supposed to in June of 1990. There was a gag in that version of Ride that the Universal creative people were particularly proud of, that, when you came around the corner and you watched the boat in front of you sinking, as part of the wreckage, they're floating and bopping in the water, was a set of mouse ears.
I love it. That's always great stuff.
All right. So anyway, back to again, 1992, Warner Brothers walks away from Universal Park. So again, what's interesting is the Rocky and Bullwinkle show stops being presented in 93 at the Sioux Stateside Parks. And as it was explained to me, the thinking, at least at Universal Creative, at that point was like, well, now we have no cartoon characters for our second gate in Florida. So maybe the smart thing would be to pull the Jay Ward characters out of Universal Studios Florida and Universal Hollywood, with the idea that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Again, if you watch this video of the Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle theme park show, you will see that Dudley Do-Right and Snidely Whiplash are prominently featured in the proceedings, and those two characters, along with Inspector Fenwick and his daughter Nell, are the stars of their own attraction and island adventure, Dudley Do-Right Whipsaw Falls, featured attraction in Toon Lagoon. And final little story here, Eric. I have this from my friend who, was in Universal Creative working with them as they opened islands. And it's like, Dudley Do-Right Whipsaw Falls was never supposed to be an opening day attraction at Islands of Adventure. It was supposed to be that theme park's Horizons, as in, for the second year of operation, they'd have something to open.
Okay. I was going to say, it doesn't remind me of Horizons much, Jim, but okay. So it's from a practical reason. So for people to come back.
That's it, exactly. Especially looking to lure locals, the Central Florida folks back. Anyway, it's 3 months prior to the opening of Islands, and again, that's May of 99. And at that point, the folks in Hollywood are looking, you guys don't have enough rides. You need to open Whipsaw Falls with the rest of the park. And the folks at Universal Creative, it's like, it's not finished. We have a bunch of scenes and effects that we still have to install. And the folks back in Hollywood is like, we don't care. You got 60 days. So this is why today, when you ride this ride and you're like, I have been in a very dark section of this ride moving along for like a minute here, and I'm looking at nothing. Why is that? And it's like, well, it's because they never installed this stuff that was supposed to go in this part of the scene. It just, and that's kind of killed me. They'd never, ever gotten around to finishing the ride. All right. Anyway, finally, to get back to the early 90s here, again, they need more characters for this park. So, Universal signed the deal to acquire the theme park rights to the Dr. Seuss characters in March of 94. And then they signed the deal to acquire the theme park rights to the Marvel comic book characters in April of that same year, 1994. And by the way, again, you want to look at something interesting? The master licensing agreements for both of these deals are available online right now. Just Google Universal Licensing Agreement and then either plug in Seuss or Marvel, and the full document comes up, folks. It's a fascinating read. But given that Universal was going to have to pay a lot of money to get the theme park rights to all of the comic strip characters that were going to populate Toon Lagoon, Popeye, Beetle Bailey, Mary Worth, you get the idea. The thinking was, when it came to the last island for Island Adventure, would it be possible to maybe theme that land around something that was, hey, in the public domain? Some characters that Universal wouldn't have to pay for when it came to theme park rights, like, say, Merlin the Magician and Sinbad the Sailor. And next week, in the fourth and final installment of the series, we will finally get to the story of Lost Continent, and particularly the Merlin section of the theme park, which was home to dueling dragons.
Oh, look at that, Jim. We have all the lands of and islands of adventure ready for us, queued up. So this will be a good finale.
We hope.
Excited to see how this goes.
Kind of an ongoing story, but we'll talk about that later. But anyway, so I think on that note, Eric, it is time to close up shop for this week on the Epic Universal podcast. So, but as always, folks, we so enjoy hearing from you. And if you have suggestions about stuff you'd like us to cover here on the show, you could please let us know. In fact, Eric, how can the nice folks get a hold of you?
You can always find me at Eric Hersey over on Twitter, X, Instagram, pretty much all the platforms. And I got a couple good suggestions for next week already, so keep them coming, and we'll throw them in the news or maybe become a feature. So, Jim, where can they reach out to you at?
Well, let's see. I am on X and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and then over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And I guess that's going to wrap it up for this week's folks. So thanks again for listening. And please stick around to hear about what's coming up this month over on the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to today's episode. And if you like what you heard, head on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. This really helps get the word out about our shows. We also have some other shows on the network that you might like. Each week, we drop a brand new Disney dish with Len Testa. For animation and movie news, please listen to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. By the way, you can also check out Drew's other podcasts, like The Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, which he does with Charles Hood. For all things Lucasfilm, why don't you subscribe to Looking at Lucasfilm with Brian Gahn? Likewise, we have I Want That Too with the lovely Lauren Hersey, our weekly podcast that features the latest merch and the stories behind that merch. And our Epic Universal podcast takes a look at the Universal theme park. So please join Eric Hersey and I on that weekly. If you enjoy theme park history, we also host Manufacturing the Magic with Shelley and Noah Valladolid. That podcast tells the story of how we got the modern theme parks that we enjoy today. Join myself, Len Testa, and veteran Imagineer Jim Schul for our latest season of Disney Unpacked, our first ever video series exclusively for Patreon. These get released first Sunday of every month, and each month we release several exclusive podcasts to help support this video series. I want to thank everyone that supports the Jim Hill Media Network. For more information about podcasts and content, head on over to jimhillmedia.com. So that's going to do it for now, folks. Thanks again for listening, and we will catch up on the next show.